There it goes. I'll skip the countdown thing. All right. So it is what day is it? It's March 28th, 2024. I am Anthony Pago. This is American
Thursday.
Micro. Thursday. uh
The
yeah, it's the 28th. Uh I'm still in Oklahoma City. It sounds like you're still in Mexico. Was that right, Rodney? What's going on?
yeah, I'm still here. I'm Hubbard. I'm still here. Rodney B. Hubbard in Mexico. Yeah, just in, has it's definitely third world, but it has a first world vibe. So yeah, down here for all those people who can't deal with the borderline. Oh well. Yeah, but
I
no, I
just
guess
sorry.
they were talking. No, go ahead.
I was thinking about the song Borderline. Wasn't that Madonna like back in like 1988 or something like that? Like
Yeah,
Borderline.
yeah,
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah. Borderline. I think I'm gonna lose my mind. You just keep on pushing my love over the borderline.
That's the one.
Good old Madonna,
Uh,
man, pushing my
uh,
love over the borderline. I swear to God.
oh,
Oh
my
my
camera's
God,
moving.
dude.
Keep
Yeah.
talking.
Okay. Yeah, man. I was. So we're going to be talking about Gen Z today. We are. Not that it's you guys are bad or anything. It's just trying to figure out what happened, man. Like you guys. I mean, something happened, bro. Something happened. I mean, there's a reason why. Um, and the reason why Gen Z is just catching so much flack, dude. And it's not me. It's not me. I'm not. I'm just. When I'm on TikTok and I listen to these like 18, 19, 20, 21 year olds, and they've got really good stuff to say. They're some of them are very, you know, they know what they're doing. They know what they're talking about. But some of them are just wildly like out of touch with like you know literally who we are as a culture, as a society. Um, and I want to figure that out. I want to figure that out. I'm not, like I said, I'm not here to like bash um, Gen Z or anything like that. It says here that the College Dictionary defines Gen Z, Generation Z, as members of a generation of people born between the mid 1990s and the mid 2010s. The Oxford Dictionaries define Generation Z as a group of people, blah blah blah. And then I looked and I threw in like 50 reasons. I'm gonna find it right here, but um, I looked at this and I was, you know, I want to know why. Hold on, let me find it here. 50 reasons why Generation Z is so soft. Ooh, did I say that? Yeah, I did. Um, and there are a lot of reasons, dude. There's like, so why does Gen Z lack strong, oh, better yet, Gen Z has certain weaknesses. They have a rather indifferent attitude towards security and prioritize convenience over security. Okay. they also experience a low perceived behavioral control. Like, but I think that could be anyone. And lack education on how to behave securely online. Well, like, yeah, there's certain things that, like, I when I listen to these kids talk, I'm like, I'm literally like I know some people are just ignorant. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I get that, but some of these kids are just like, I'm like, dude, did you? I'm like, did you really just? Um, when I hear a young black male who's Gen Z, who's a Trumper, this guy is going to vote. He's young, he's black, he's like 22, 21 years old, right? And he's going to vote for Trump. And I'm like, dude, do you, is you're missing something, right? Is there something that you're missing, or explain it to me? Why are you voting for Trump? And then they explain it to, well, he's done more for the black community than any president, uh, that's ever governed the United States of America. And I'm like, so what has he done? Well, he gave all this money to the the black universities, the HBUs, historically black HBCs, historically black colleges, HBU, historically black universities. Um, and then, they go on and on. I'm like, dude, do you really believe? And then, we have these. Well, let me put it like this: whether they're white or black, I have conversations. They just. I mean, when I was 18, 19 years old, there was stuff that I knew. I mean, like, I knew this stuff. You know, it wasn't hard for me to understand certain things. Like, they were, when I was 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 years old, life was not black and white. Okay. I saw life in color, but there were certain things that you realized. For instance, if you were 18 in the 70s, or 18 in the 60s, or even 18 in the 80s, there's just certain things that you realized, and you weren't encumbered by social media, by the way people thought about you online. You didn't have to go through, you didn't you didn't have to be of saying something, because at some point you knew that it could either be filmed, it could be thrown on YouTube or on Facebook, and then the rest of your life is ruined, right? So, I mean, yeah, Generation Z. I get it. I do. I get it. You were born with a lot of things that have really, how can I say, halted your capacity to outside and play on a monkey bar. Yeah, there are kids that go out there, they're still playing football and basketball. But how many, dude, do you see kids out in Mexico? These kids come out and play. In the United States, where do kids, unless they have scheduled play dates, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? So, I mean,
Yeah.
and that's just the beginning, dude. But go ahead. What's your take?
Well, I think, is that loud? Is that super loud for you? I'll
No.
back this mic off a little bit. Okay. I feel like I would think that if a black guy I'm talking to online told me that Trump did more for black people than any other president, I'd automatically assume that this was like a white guy pretending to be a black guy, or like an AI created by the Trump administration, or the wannabe Trump administration, or like Russia or somebody pushing disinformation. I wouldn't. I would be really hard pressed to believe that I had run into what was his name? It was like Clayton Bigsby or something like that. Like the
Yeah.
the
Uncle
yeah,
Ruckus.
yeah. But what was Dave Chappelle? It was Dave Chappelle's skit where it's like this blind black guy who's like a member of the KKK, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And he
I would feel
pulls
like
off
I'm
his hood at the Klan meeting.
yeah. I
Just
would feel like I'm talking to that kind of a person. So I had to look this up because there's just so many, things that have happened between now and then. But the Future Act and the Title III program and the HBCUs that Trump signed in. Whenever you look up like the fact checks, PolitiFact, for example, but not just PolitiFact. A lot of people don't like PolitiFact because they often get checked by them, so they think they must be secretly leftist and that's not the case. But I looked up several places to kind of double check this thing, and everybody says that there is a tiny bit of truth to the fact that Trump helped by signing the bill, but the bill was bipartisan, and it's unclear that Trump did anything to get the ball rolling on this, especially because these programs existed before he came into office. And the way it worked structurally is well, so the checks on him say that he's exaggerating his position in helping save black colleges, because historically how it's worked is these programs would have to ask for funding again and again and again, and he signed this bipartisan bill that just kind of blanket made that funding go through, when it's set aside or approved or whatever, when it exists. So he signed a bill, which is great. I'm glad he did, but it was a bipartisan bill, and these days, like if you're going to vote for Trump these days, Trump is no longer pretending to be bipartisan. He is he in fact killed without holding office, without having any power other than the sway he holds over Republicans who do have power, who are elected officials. He told them to not go ahead with the border bill. The border bill
yeah.
was ready to rock. It was bipartisan, and he told them to kill it. He is not interested in bipartisan, you know, um, joint work anymore. Clearly, he stated as much. He said that his next administration on day one will be about exacting revenge by using kind of dictatorial type powers. So to ignore that and pretend like you're going to go back to this magic la la land where Trump, is interested in helping people of color, or signing bipartisan bills, or pushing bipartisan bills, is to completely ignore reality in Trump's own words. Trump has said he's no longer going to play Mr. Nice Guy. He is using revenge tactics, authoritarian tactics. I would not expect Trump to be helping Black people out, or any minority group whatsoever. So that's the majority of my thoughts on that, because it starts off with like just kind of a just this la la land. Like, we're talking about people who are completely in la la land, and I do think that that is a problem with young people. Not all young people, but there is a problem with a certain segment of young people being quarantined, basically self-quarantined in some cases. But it's more of a structural issue in how we're dealing with social media and communication in general. Social media being the primary volume of communication these days, especially for the younger people, because they're better connected through it. They're more well connected. They use their phones more. They use their, all the various apps. They know how to use them better. It's more efficient for them. So that's resulted in a lot of pros and a lot of negatives. And the negatives, I think, is what you're referring to. We're seeing a lot of the outcomes of being quarantined to kind of communicating in this style online. It's resulting in not just um, it's resulting in kind of loneliness. They don't know how to go to the park. They don't know how to, call each other and be like, hey, let's go hang out for real, like without our phones or whatever. They'll just not all of them again. So we can just state this like for the rest of the show. Whenever we're making these complaints, we're not claiming that anybody is that everybody in Gen Z or any generation is completely, guilty of these things or whatever. We're talking about the swath of people that do have these issues. So there is a sizable percentage of Gen Z and the younger generations who weren't forced to do what you're talking about, learning to ride around on their bikes through the neighborhood and see all of the bikes piled in front of one person's yard and ring the doorbell and
Yeah.
learn to socialize. That comes with like its own lessons that we don't learn in face to sorry on online apps. There's just something missing in social structure there. And so when you do this, when you avoid meeting each other face to face and you don't develop these skills, it also kind of seems to mess with your lie detector, your ability to gauge, your bullshit detector a little bit. And it definitely means that now you're quarantined off to the only places that you go. So if you're only on Twitch and you're only on Reddit and you're only on Twitter, then and if you don't visit the news sites because you think that and I understand the thought process that major media is flawed and not trustworthy or whatever, but if you refuse to go to certain places like major news outlets and other communicative tools, you're going to miss the actual output, the actual stories, the actual data that's coming from those places, and that means you're not going to get a well-rounded story. And so that means a lot of these younger people are more susceptible to hostile forces who are going to feed them bullshit, or just people who think they're experts and are giving them the wrong information, so misinformation. um, and it feels like that guy is a victim. The guy who you were talking about, the black guy who said, well, Trump has done more for black people than any other president. And it's hard to argue with somebody who has been fed misinformation and believes that everybody they've heard that stuff from has sources. That's kind of just a human problem, not just a problem with with younger generations. It certainly happened in my generation and for your generation. Like extremists who have been radicalized, who were being fed down the white supremacist pipeline, would hear from experts at these rallies, and these people in these rallies would refer to books and to other experts that they'd gone and listened to, and these people would like, okay, they would like agree, and they'd hear it, they'd be like, interesting, and they would hear about these 5 books, these 5 sources that are flawed and have incorrect data in them, or misinterpreted data, or cherry picked data to back up kind of a racist worldview. But they won't tell you that. And these people who are at these rallies, sitting there nodding and going, this is interesting, this is swaying me towards this group that is heavily white supremacist in nature, they're not going to go and read those books. They're just going to trust that this person is telling them the truth about these books and these experts and what they have to say. And that's also what's happening to the younger generation too. They will go onto whatever apps they're going onto, and they will listen to these people who claim to have researched whatever topic is at hand. And they're not going to go to the 5 sources that this person might not have listed, maybe did list, and check out everything to verify whether it's true. So I understand where a black person could say, "Hey, I've been told by reputable sources on TikTok that Trump is the most black friendly president of all time, I guess, other than Lincoln. So anything you tell them back is just going to be a leftist lie to counter their narrative. So it's really hard to argue with people who have a limited worldview, and I think that's a big part of the problem, is that we are all limiting our scope more and more and more, which makes us susceptible to misinformation.
Well, I'll tell you what. situation where, you're 55 years old or 53 or 60, 38 or 39, and you're black and you voted for Trump. Okay. No, I don't. I mean, there is that. There is that, misunderstanding and misinformation and being culturally and socially brainwashed, and literally being a person who just how can I say, has black hate for themselves. Okay, but 19, 20, 22 and you come which is where I was when I was 19, 20, 21 years old. I didn't know. So I didn't open my mouth. Kids these days, look, I get it. And it's not just kids these days. It's millennials as well, who were born 1980, from 89 on, I would say. That generation or those generations of people are having they're going to have an unbelievably rough time financially. This is what it says. There is a growth in inequality in the transition to adulthood for Gen Z. There's a lot of changes in culture and norms and security, more generally, in terms of climate change and the war and school shootings and rapid inflation. On top, a lot of these kids a lot of people from ages like 25 to 45, they're never going to be able to buy a home, bro. Ever. They don't. I mean, there are a lot of jobs in this country, but a lot of these jobs pay $13, $15, $18 an hour. You can't even pay your rent making that kind of money. I mean, if you made, and a lot of these kids, whether they have college degrees or not, luckily, for some of them, or a great number, I can't even say a great number. I don't know what the stats are, but there are people out there who go to college and are working at McDonald's for $22 an hour, bro. In-N-Out Burger, they pay their people $21, $22 an hour. So if you're both working at, and you're making $1,600, say you and your girlfriend work at In-N-Out Burger and you're making close to $1,700 a week, because what is that? What, $20 times 40? What is that? $800 a week, right? Right.
That sounds right. Yeah.
So, there you have it, right? But you live in San Diego, dude. My nephew is 28 years old. He was born in 97, 98. No, yeah, something like that. And he's like, Uncle Rodney, he's like, I'm not going to be able to afford a home. And he's getting married March 28th. And he's like, Uncle Rodney, I'm not going to be able to afford a home. I'm like, well, get where you fit in, man. I'm like, I buy a home in Baltimore. I knew I could buy it. I knew I could afford it. I knew I could afford it. You know what I mean? And I was there for a minute, and I'm down here in Mexico because I'm recording a record in San Diego, but I can't live in San Diego because rent is, for a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment, is anywhere from $2,400 to $3,200 a month. Now, you know, what are you going to do? You're going to have 3 people living in a 1-bedroom apartment, you know? I get that. I'm lucky because I'm retired, and you know, I did the corporate America thing, man. I know what it's like, and honestly, um, it says here that 85% of those identifying as Gen Z, one or more barriers to, let me see, hold on, how does it, according to Bank of America, 85% of those identifying as Gen Z, one or more barriers to financial success. That doesn't make sense. 85% of those identifying as Gen Z see one or more. Yeah.
Okay.
In other words,
So
I guess what they're saying is to be financial. Go ahead.
no, I was just saying, like, I think I got you on that stat is that 85% of Gen Z feel like or see a financial barrier in their life that likely, if it's Bank of America, we're probably talking about mortgages
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So that likely don't feel like
Or
they can
anything.
sustain the payment. Yeah, sustain any payment.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of these, I remember one time I was at my buddy's house, and this was like years ago. And his father said, I asked him, I said, how's it going? He's like, man, I'm just one bad transmission away from being homeless. I'm like, what? And he's living in Claremont, in this big house, beautiful house. And I'm like, so if that's the way it was for him, imagine what it's like for these kids who, are like, you got to have a partner, dude. You got to have a partner to get this stuff done. You got to have a team. Or you're living with mom and dad. I mean, imagine, like, when I was a kid, we weren't in a situation where we had to really depend on our parents for any type of, well, guidance, of course, roof over our head and food. But when it came to our own happiness, we didn't have to look at a screen. We weren't glued to the TV. We were playing guitar. We were in bands. We were outside. Whatever it was. Now, needless to say, we didn't have any of this stuff going on, man, like school shootings. We didn't have any of this, like this, how can I say, like psycho, like emotional rhetoric that comes from social media. We didn't have to deal with that at all. You know what I mean? And these kids, I mean, like children, like hanging themselves or shooting, whatever, like these kids kill themselves. I mean, that just when I was a kid, it never happened. I went to a huge high school. I went to a huge junior high school. You just didn't. But now the pressure that's built up in society to be, good at this or good at or get into that school, and then you go to school and you've got $230,000 worth of school debt. You know what I mean? Which was $324 a semester, bro, at a major university. These kids, I mean, they have a hard way to go. I don't know if it's so much, maybe it's not so much that they're soft. It's just that they look at it and they look at society and they look at, culturally and socially and economically. Forget about the politics, but I'm sure that that plays a huge part. But socially, economically, culturally, emotionally, the psychology behind all of this stuff, it takes a toll when you're 23, 24, just graduating from a major university with hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. No way out of your debt, no way to secure a home loan, no way to start a family. What are you going to do? What's your take?
Yeah, I can't help but notice a correlation, a very direct relationship between the types of attitude we read about during Lincoln's time all the way up to the civil rights movements, where the prevailing controlling classes um, told themselves and then told everybody else, when the conversation was had, that change was not really possible, that any kind of change to the system would adversely affect not only their lives but their children's lives, the stability of their family. And so changing those systems wasn't economically viable, wasn't socially viable, wasn't politically viable. And I feel like we're getting the same exact conversation thrown back at us again, when we tell people the solution. There's not just one solution, but there are a few that are really going to make good headway in changing things for the younger generation, which is going to change things for the older generations too, like increasing wages for these kids. We see record profits all over the place, record profit margins all over the place for corporations, for small businesses, for large businesses. If you're struggling as a small business and you're disagreeing with me here, you need to change your business model. Business models have to adapt. You have to be a smarter business person. If you're having to pay people not living wages, basically slave wages, your business model is bad. We are hearing from people who are making um, higher than ever profit margins quarter by quarter by quarter, again and again and again, who are doing stock buybacks with all of their excess money. Shareholders are elated because the stock market's doing great, and they're firing employees left and right to keep the wages down, because you're hiring new wages that lower your oh, we lost Rodney. I'm sure he'll be back. Your employees are cycling through to keep wages down. Um, we need to tell companies to cut this out, to actually start paying people fairly, and that's going to a rising tide lifts all boats. That's going to increase the available funds for Social Security. It's going to encourage young people to buy homes. Um, let's see. I was gonna pause this stream. I guess we can't pause the stream on a live stream. For Rodney to get back. So I feel like we need to encourage people to have the tough conversations with themselves and with each other about the viability of increasing the amount of capital that's flowing from both directions, from the top down, which will then increase the amount of money going from the bottom up. And that's going to raise the standard of living for the young people, which is going to do a heck of a lot to reduce the amount of anxiety and depression that's occurring with children. I say children, with young people, because we're talking about Generation Z, who's newly in the workforce, along with Generation X and the Boomers. So I think that's one of my solutions. We're going to see if we can get Rodney back. He should be popping back up here in a second. We'll call him. We'll call him and see if he's gonna. He should just be popping back in. We'll call him and put it on speaker.
I'm getting back in the studio.
Okay, I'm just leaving it streaming live, so just pop back in.
Going in right now.
Oh, I see you. I see you showing up. So okay, Rodney is popping back in. But you can hear me on the phone, right?
Yeah.
So I was just mentioning as we continue on live that I think that we need to have the tough conversation with business owners, boomers, Gen Z, even millennial business owners, that they need to raise wages for everybody, because that's going to help target some of the economic insecurity that is in large part to blame for making a lot of these Gen Z people go into severe depression and feel like they can't buy a home, and feel like, when you're in a depression, why would you want to hang out? Why would you want to go to the park? Nope, you just popped back out of the channel there. So okay, so what do you want me to do here? You want me to end the stream, or do you want me to?
Yeah, let's just stream.
What's that?
Hold on. Let me try to get back in here.
All right.
I'm gonna have to buy my own thing.
Your own internet?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do that tomorrow. What's today? Thursday? Yeah, tomorrow. I'm just gonna call. I'm gonna look into Tijuana for internet provider, and I'm just gonna. Yeah. I can't keep going through this.
Dropping out, yeah. It seems like it's cyclical. It's like every 30 minutes or something like that. It seems to do it.
I guess we should just record no, I'm gonna get it tomorrow, so.
Okay. Are you trying to get back in, or do you want me to end the stream?
I'm in.
Oh, I don't see you in my little box.
Yeah, let's just stream.
Okay, so what do you mean? Okay, so I'm gonna hit end stream on this, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
stream on mine.